Kapowians, and welcome back to another jam-packed episode of Kapow. I'm Sonya.
And I'm Al, and I agree we have so much stuff going on this week, it is hard to contain it within the four walls of King's Comics.
It is, but let's just take a look at what we're looking at today. We're reviewing the Killer Omnibus Volume 1. We're also checking out Issue 1 of the latest Marvel event series, Infinity.
And then, for something a little different, we're looking at the graphic novel Splinter Cell Echoes, which is coming out exclusively with the special edition of the new game, Splinter Cell Blacklist.
Of course, Ray will be here, and we'll take a look at something that's been giving me nightmares lately, the online series Yamishibai.
And as well as that, there's all the action from the preview screening of Kick-Ass 2, which I still think should have been called The Kick-Assening.
Yeah, that's why you don't get to name anything anymore.
So few geniuses are recognised in their own era.
Those of you who grabbed a copy of the free Comic Book Day Infinity preview have probably been holding your breath waiting for this event to kick off.
Yeah, but here it is. In Infinity Issue 1, it's time for Earth's mightiest heroes to strap on their space shoes and get ready to face one of the all-time big bads. The Mad Titan himself, Thanos. And yet what?
Look, I've got to say for myself, event fatigue has certainly started to kick in. We've only just gotten clear of Age of Ultron and already another Marvel event has come around.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a big universe. How come Earth's always the one getting picked on?
Just lucky, I guess. I can see what you're saying. Nonetheless, this has been a highly anticipated event, and it's going to be very much welcomed by long-term fans, particularly those who've been following Jonathan Hickman's work on Avengers and New Avengers.
Yeah, absolutely. But along those same lines, new readers need not apply here. There is a dizzying array of characters on the slate for this title, and even with the helpful roster breakdown at the start, you will likely be completely lost without prior knowledge. You've got the Illuminati with their secretiness, you've got the Builders raising their way through the star systems, the Space Knights of Galador make an appearance, and the Avengers seem to be featuring their largest turnout to date.
Add to that more secrets and strife between the Inhumans, the Skrull popping up again, and Thanos running his own sneaky game behind it all. And yeah, I think it's fair to say there's a lot going on.
Yep.
But the beauty of all this is with Hickman at the helm, you know his writing style is sufficient to capture that massive scope.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will admit, it's got the look hands down. Jim Cheung is really nailing it in this first issue. It's kind of a shame that he's not doing the whole run. Along with Justin Ponsor on colours, there is a richness and a grandiosity to the artwork that sits perfectly for this universe-spanning event. Nevertheless, its inaccessibility to newer readers is still a major factor for me, so I'm going to give this one a borrow.
Fair enough. I think, however, for those of you who've been following along, this is going to be just the scratch for that itch you've been feeling, so I'm going to give it a buy. I think one thing's fair to say. The gauntlet has been thrown down.
Really?
Yeah.
A pun.
Yeah.
That pun.
I pretty much had to. Infinity Gauntlet. Come on!
Hello, Ray.
Hi Sonya, hi guys.
So tell me, when was the last time you were really spooked?
Just before, when you and Evil Al finished that comic review.
That was just Al.
I knew it, they're morphing into one.
Okay, so tell us about this week's anime.
Sure. It's called Yamishibai, also known as Theatre of Darkness in the West. This series takes a narrative format to explore the rich occult history from Japan. In other words, ghost stories. Moreover, the storytelling techniques mimic Kamishibai, which literally means paper drama. It's a form of storytelling that originated in Japanese Buddhist temples in the 12th century, where monks used picture scrolls to convey stories with moral lessons to a mostly illiterate audience.
It's an excellent choice of style to go along with this kind of rich folklore. And I really love the kind of picture book style to it.
Yeah.
We're so used to watching such amazingly rendered animation. It's
Absolutely,
a nice change.
yeah, I agree. It really matches this kind of storytelling. But if you look carefully, you'll also notice they're not simply moving cutout characters around the screen. The animators move the figures in a rhythm with each breath, giving them a life beyond ink alone. In fact, you'll rarely find a frame without any movement. Sometimes it might even be the throbbing of a light or a lens shifting focus. I love this attention to detail. On top of this, the artwork itself, that of the characters and backgrounds, is beautiful. A lovely blend of soft watercolor strokes and abrasive pencil lines adorn each scene. Now, what did you think of the stories themselves, Sonya?
They're all really unsettling.
Yeah.
Not scary as such, but I think I may have jumped at some point in each episode.
Me too. Look, I found it thrilling. I loved being sucked in and kept on edge the whole time, and all within 4.5 minutes, mind you.
Yeah, it's like a really quick jolt of creepy and then you're done.
Yeah.
I also like how nothing really gets explained. It kind of adds to this wonderful elusive concept.
Yeah, yet I thought that the pace was a little same from story to story. Yeah, but I understand that it's difficult to meddle with that structure too much within such a short time frame.
Yeah.
Now, the directors vary from episode to episode, but they manage to hit the same note across the series while adding their own unique flavour to each individual story. Now, what I noticed is that most tend to lean toward a first-person experience, which is in part why I think they're so effective. And tying them all together is the storyteller. Every week at 5 p.m, an old man shows up to a children's playground and shares one of his ghost stories.
As if that isn't disturbing enough.
I know.
Look, I'm thoroughly enjoying this series. I like the fact that you can take 5 and watch one episode or watch a whole bunch all in one hit. The narration and the voice acting in this is also excellent.
Yeah.
I hope that a dubbed version doesn't come out because I cannot see this translating very well.
No.
It's most definitely a buy from me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that traditional element would definitely be lost in a dubbed version.
Yeah.
Look, you don't see a lot of this animation about. You might see it a bit more on your indie short film circuit, but it's not often produced en masse and with such quality. I also have to mention the sound is excellent. The soundscape and the sound effects, it wouldn't be half the show that it is without it. It's
True.
Fantastic. It's a buy from me as well. And if you do like what you see, then I encourage you to go check out an Australian animated short made in 2005. It's called The Mysterious Geographic Explorations of Jasper Morello.
Awesome.
He's behind me, isn't he?
Hey. What? There's no one there.
Creepy.
With new games being hyped up almost as much as blockbuster movies these days, there's a lot of interactive entertainment vying for your gaming dollars. And once you've decided on your particular game, then you have to decide which edition to go for.
Yeah, I mean, there's collector's editions, special editions, limited editions, and each of them with their own collection of bonus swag for you to choose from. Which brings us up to Splinter Cell Blacklist, a new game which includes, amongst the goodies in its 5th Freedom Edition, a graphic novel called Splinter Cell Echoes, written by our old fave, Nathan Edmondson.
For those unfamiliar with Splinter Cell, it focuses on a guy called Sam Fisher, who is pretty much the most hardcore Black Ops badass in the world. If you want to get someone in and out of a heavily guarded location with no one the wiser, then Fisher's your guy.
And with the wide variety of gadgets, weapons, and espionage doodads that come along with these games, Edmondson's experience with writing spy thrillers makes him the perfect man for the job.
It was a good idea to flesh out Sam's life in between the games rather than adapting an existing story, although it does dovetail a little bit at the end with the appearance of the engineers, who will be the main antagonists for the new game.
Yeah, it's a solid little spy story, featuring plenty of Sam creeping around in the dark with 3 green lights strapped to his head. We see a bunch of his signature moves as he takes people down, and it has a nice mix of flavours. Obviously including elements of the game world, but also including elements of Edmondson's other spy-fi title, The Activity.
Yeah, which makes sense given that he's teamed up with Mark Lamming again on art. There's the same scratchy, slightly messy look to the visuals that I really enjoyed in The Activity. It works really well here. I also like that this book tries to reveal more about Sam's personality. Spending time trying to build a relationship with your daughter isn't great material for a game.
Press X to hug.
But I think having it here will give a greater sense of context when you're actually playing Splinter Cell. I'm giving this one a buy.
Yeah, look, this isn't a book that blew me away initially, but I had to remember the purpose that it was serving. I mean, this is meant to be an adjunct to the game, and for that it works really well. I mean, even the occasional moments of fan service or the repeated references to the 5th Freedom, which I think would jar if this was a standalone, makes sense in this context, and it is a lot of fun. So I'm giving it a buy as well. And hopefully, if you're looking at 2 different special editions, and one of them has this book, this will make your decision a little bit easier.
So there's been a lot of comic book adaptations this year, and we decided to go and see Kick-Ass 2 at the George Street Event Cinemas, where Kings also had a trivia night, which was a lot of fun. So, Sonya, what did you think of the film?
I really didn't like it.
Oh.
Yeah, I'll put it out there. I really didn't. I thought that the structure of the film was woeful. It was just kind of quick action, 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 and then a really forced emotional scene, and then action, action, action. Like I vagued out a lot through this. I also didn't think the character development within this was very well done. A lot of the characters didn't change at all, or if they did, it was kind of a weird change that didn't make sense in the context of the film.
Yeah.
And there was also one particular scene which I won't go into details with, but I was so offended by that I almost walked out of the cinema.
Oh, I think I
Yep.
know which one.
Yeah,
And it
I
had
definitely
nothing
know
to
which
do with any of the violence.
one. No.
No.
Yeah,
No.
I know the one you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't find the violence, too much or over the top
No.
at all. In
No.
fact, in this film, it was something quite different.
Different.
But, sorry, Al, what did you think of the film?
Well, I think, there were the structural problems. I put it down to a lack of momentum. There
Yeah.
didn't seem to be a strong through line in this. It was kind of bits and pieces all over the place, which I tend to attribute to them trying to take in too much
Yep.
from the source material, because there was Hit Girl series and Kick-Ass
And
2
Kick-Ass
that they
2.
were taking from, and as a result, they were just all over the place.
Yeah.
There was just the lack of any kind of through line.
Yeah.
There were cool characters that didn't come back, just showed up once and then just disappeared, and that bugged me. Also, I felt, and this is supposed to be something that's a real strong theme in this, is consequences.
Yeah.
There's a lot of big long speeches about how this is the real world and bad things happen, there are consequences to your actions, but it didn't display that
No.
at all. I mean, there's one character who gets killed, one
of the good guys.
superhero characters
Yep.
who gets killed, and that's it.
Yeah.
I mean, even when they get beat up, they've got a bruise the next day, and then he's fine. I assume it's the next day. The sense of time was again all over the place.
A lot of policemen died.
Yeah,
A lot-
lots,
yes.
Billions of them.
They're very
Policemen in
incompetent
this city
in
are
this place,
Terrible,
yeah.
absolutely terrible policemen. But the other thing that really bugged me was the lack of a strong antagonist. Because
Yeah.
we've got Christopher Mintz-Plass's character, who was Red Mist in the previous film, Chris D'Amico, pardon me.
Yep.
He's supposed to be the big bad in this, but he's basically comic relief.
Yeah.
I mean, in the book, he does some things that he's still ineffectual in a lot of ways, but he does some things that are unforgivably evil.
Yeah.
In this movie, he does nothing except be a figure of fun. And that doesn't make for any kind of tension when it comes to the final face-off.
Yeah, well, exactly. And he's supposed to be stepping up to the plate,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And
He talks about that a lot.
I'm the first supervillain.
Yeah.
Yes. No, you're really
No,
not.
you're
No,
not.
you're a wet blanket.
Yeah.
But no, it's exactly, both of you have mentioned the same thing, character development, and that led me to, a lack of empathy for any of the characters.
Yeah.
It's like a cut and paste of a myriad of other films. A bit of Mean Girls in there, which I think was a bit of an odd choice,
Certainly was.
and then a little bit of Mystery Men,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Yeah.
Look, most of all, I was deeply offended. I feel like a bit of a prude, but I thought it was just a lot of shock value. In the first one, there was elements of that. Various, profanities were said, a certain amount of violence.
Yeah.
But I think it was measured against, some really strong dramatic tones, which I gave credence to the whole situation, the reality, as you mentioned again. In this, I thought everything was just throw everything out of the window. We're going to be as offensive as possible.
Well, if you're going to
Yeah.
resort to visible diarrhea on the screen, I think that's when you wave the white flag and say,
Yeah.
we don't
We're done.
have anything going on, we're just pure.
I know, is it a spoof film? I don't
Yeah.
even.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable.
Exactly. It was too far.
Yeah, well,
Too far.
on that note, was it better than the first film?
No. I loved the first film. I thought it was a great adaptation. I found it hilarious. I found it very insightful. I found it, the action in it was really well done. It was a lot more violent, I think, than this one was.
I agree.
And, having Hit Girl for the first time burst onto the screens, it was amazing to see this little kid just being amazing.
I like the
and
action better
horrible.
too in the first one.
Yeah.
Much better choreographed.
Much better
Yep.
choreographed.
That it actually had that consequence element to
Yeah.
it that was completely absent from this film. It had that sense of momentum. It had that cool comic book feel, which again absent
It
from
didn't
this
have
film.
in that, yeah.
Yeah.
Which, shockingly, to be honest.
Yeah.
Do you think that it will encourage people to read the comic book then? I mean, the first one,
The first one definitely would have,
Yeah.
I would say.
Mm.
But
Oh, yeah.
I cannot see anyone coming out of this going, I might check out that comic book. Like,
Which is a shame,
It's a shame, 'cause
honestly,
it's actually
because
quite
there
good.
I gotta say, I prefer the first Kick-Ass book
Yep.
to the sequels, but there's still a lot of good stuff in the sequels, and I hope people don't get put off the comic because of this
Because of
movie,
it, yeah.
because it really is fairly dire.
Well, that's what we thought. Here's what some of you thought. All right, you just came out of the film. What did you think?
I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
There was a lot of stuff I liked, and some stuff I need to rewatch and see a second time.
I enjoyed it. Doesn't quite hit the heights of the first film for me, but still very, very fun, very cool.
How long do I have to tell you how horrible this movie is?
We got a few minutes.
First of all, trying to make a rape scene funny. Rape scenes are never funny. I was this close to walking out of the cinema. There was this whole weird Mean Girls section in the middle there, where, you know, Hit Girl went from being herself to being one of the plastics and then stayed a plastic the entire time, even when she knew that it was wrong. It was like, instead of going back to her normal awesome self, she kept the hair and the makeover and the stuff, which was so unnecessary. There were just plot lines all over the place. There was way too much going on at once. None of the characters lived up to their true potential at all. I was really disappointed.
I thought it was absolutely incredible. It definitely lived up to the standard set by the first one, and it didn't suffer from the curse of the sequels. Sequels normally suck. This one was nothing like that.
I thought it was really good, actually. It, like most sequels, they can suck, and they often do. Not always. This one, very good, very good.
Amazing.
Yes.
I've been waiting for it for a long time, but
Yes.
it was just amazing. So good.
Have you read the comics?
No, I haven't, but I think I will now. I think I'm going to have to.
I absolutely loved it. Every single moment of it. It is just such, it's just an emotional roller coaster. It's just so cool. Had everything that was great about the first one, and it just amplified it. It was just,
And do you think it leaves room for a third? There's a third comic series, so...
Did you, right at the end, there's always the little blip at the end. There's a blip at the end! And yeah, number 3, definitely.
Awesome.
Cool. Thanks, Ray. Thanks, guys.
You've probably noticed that hitmen, at least as they're portrayed in TV and movies, are almost always cool. I mean, they're sexy, suave jet-setters who punctuate every successful mission with a dry one-liner before melting away into the night. It's a trope that's actually pointed out in Volume 1 of the Killer Omnibus. Meanwhile, the rule is being completely broken.
There are a lot of ways that writer Matz breaks the rules here. I mean, for one thing, this is an in-depth character study of a man with no name. A man who occasionally shows flashes of violence or humour, but otherwise really doesn't have a personality.
Yeah, and there's no explanation given, really, of how he came to be that way. Flashbacks show that he had an average childhood without any incidents of violence. One day, he took money to beat a guy up, which led to another job where he killed. And then he just kept going, because he was good at it, and because he liked to travel.
Which is where the art in this book really gets to shine. Luc Jacquemont does both art and colours for this volume, and the variety of imagery is a testament to his skills. Every new country we visit and every change in mood brings a fresh colour palette, a new visual flavour that often conveys more than the dialogue.
Especially when we see the killer start to crack up, when the art seems to have been fed through a shredder and then patched back together, creating a powerful effect. But even in those moments, this lead character shows little to no facial expression.
Yeah, his eyes are generally hidden by his glasses, further distancing him from the reader. I mean, this book runs for over 300 pages, and I still couldn't describe to you the personality of the killer. I don't think I could even describe to you what he looks like. I mean, he's he's average,
Yeah.
which I guess is pretty perfect if you're a hitman.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, in terms of the story, I don't think we need to give away much.
No.
There are contract executions, betrayal, revenge, sex, and disaster. But beneath it all, there's this thoughtful portrait of an unknowable character, this hole in the world, as well as an examination of humanity's willingness to kill. I mean, this is a crime comic with plenty of action, but it's also got plenty of intelligence. I'm giving this one a buy.
Absolutely. Look, the one flaw that I would point out is that all the women in this seem to exist only there to take their clothes off, which is a little bit disappointing. But I will also say it didn't actually ruin the book for me. This is, like we said, a character portrait of this one man. I'm definitely giving this one a buy. I urge you to go out, get this omnibus for a truly unique story. So that is your lot for this week, guys, and if you're anything like me, you now need a little lie down, maybe a cup of tea, because that's just too much awesome to handle.
And if you're anything like me, then you may well be my evil twin. Don't think I've forgotten you're out there, and don't think I've forgotten about that TV you broke.
Why did he break your television?
Well, he said it was a political statement. But he also said the same thing when he filled my shoes with silly string, so I don't know.
Okay, and on that bit of weirdness, we'll see you next week, guys.
Bye.
Bye.